Good evening. This is Attorney Talib Karim, the Executive Director and CEO of STEM4US. And I am honored. Let me get my bow tie. Always my bow tie seems to be a little bit off right there. Right there. There you go. I am honored to have with me someone who I have known uh, since I was 17 years old. So
1987.
that's a little ways ago, but
1987.
I'm honored to be in his presence. None other than James J. or Henderson Kerr, and
June.
Jay Kerr Jr. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much, because I'm also a junior, so I should know better. He is a vice president for a technology company that, and I'm looking forward to him actually kind of explaining a little bit more about who he is and what he's doing. But he again earned a bachelor's of science in interdisciplinary analysis from the United States Air Force Academy, and is the vice president of Tor Group Incorporated, right, which again is a logistics technology company focused on real-time locating systems and software, as well as wireless solutions. Before that, he founded the Prep Champs, which helped high school students, athletes, get recognized and recruited. And while also working as a director of operations for VitBit software that specialized in virtual events and online recruitment. And also, he had many stints in other noted companies from Northrop Grumman to Pepsi. So, without any further ado, first of all, Jay, how are you, and where are you beaming into us from, if you will?
That's right. Broadcasting to you, coming to you live. You're looking live. Let me make sure I get my screen. I'm centered. I know I look good. I'm centered. Yeah, broadcasting live, Columbia, Maryland. Yeah, excited to be connected officially with STEM4US. And yeah, looking forward to the dialogue. I was excited to see Daryl Horton. I guess it was last week. And yeah, excited to get going, and let's talk about STEM. Let's talk about career paths and everything like that. So
excellent.
Absolutely.
So tell me, brother, who is Jay Kerr? I mean, who are you, and how did you get your start from, again, Columbia, Maryland's Howard High School, I understand, to the ranks of the United States Air Force Academy, and to becoming an Air Force officer, and now a leader of a technology logistics firm. Tell me about your story, brother.
That's the whole story, man. That's it. No, so yeah, originally from here in Columbia, Maryland, born at Baltimore, moved here to Columbia, the suburbs, a little bit south of Baltimore, a little bit north of DC. Yeah, so Columbia is a unique place to be from. It's it was a planned community back then, but I am Peaches Kerr's son. That's who I am. So if you ask me who I am, that's who I am. Peaches Kerr. That's my mother. I had a birthday last week. So yeah, parents moved us out here from Baltimore back in 1970 something, and grew up here. Howard High School was always had an interest in STEM. Some of the things on the bio, but I had a variety background, just like most of us, sports, honor roll student, but parents moved us here to give us an opportunity to be, to have additional experiences and that kind of thing. So this was a this was a blessing to be raised in this community out here. But I remain as Peach's son. My father is an Air Force veteran, senior master sergeant. Now that's a funny photo you scrolling there. So my father was a senior master sergeant in the Reserves, Air National Guard, and active duty. Senior Master Sergeant Kerr, retired, James Henderson Kerr Sr. Back to my mother, she was a science teacher, 38 years in Maryland, Baltimore City, another county, and then Howard County. In fact, my mother was my chemistry teacher in high school. That had, and so all my teachers already knew me when I got there, and my brother and I. So that's who I am in terms of upbringing. Did all the checked a lot of the boxes, and parents are both in a lot of organizations. Specifically, my father Omega Psi Phi, my mother Delta Sigma Theta. So our community here was quite, it was immediate family. Everybody knew everybody. Very diverse, black, white, all other. So this was a great community to have an upbringing, to learn how to deal with different people. I did well in, the quantitative areas, the math, the science, anything with a number. My father, the idea of me going to in the military was, I don't know, I was birthed a couple of places, but seeing my father as a very young kid, getting up and going up to the guard base. Before a long time, he was a full-time reservist up at Martin Airfield, just north of Baltimore in Middle River. And so even I remember a number of times he let me go up there with him. And ironically, that base was an A-10. They had A-10s, A-7s, a number of other weapon systems up there. And so he had the uniform, and I thought that was interesting. He let me walk around in the hangar. And after going a couple of times, the guys up there knew me. So that got planted early. Then we moved out here to Columbia. My father continued his career. Mother was teaching, and went through high school, played all the sports, soccer, track, basketball, etc. I played in the band. So I had a diverse background. Parents kept us involved in lots of things. And so, some of the standard things that, suburban Black folks would be involved with. And I even noted on the bio, was involved with Jack and Jill and a number of other things here as well. So I just noted a few things that made an impact. And then, I did well. Lucky that my mother was familiar with the system, because when I was in the sixth grade going into seventh grade, I hung around a variety of people, but I think in the sixth grade I was hanging around with a lot of the smart kids, quote unquote, the nerd crew. And it turned out in the seventh grade, a number of them, and for math, they somehow whisked them out of class, and they went and took a test to be in pre-algebra. And I was like, oh, I didn't get to take the test. They were all going to go take it at the end of the week. So I came home, told my mother, said, yeah, my friends they're taking a test for pre-algebra. They didn't sign me up. My mother, of course, came right up to the school, said, give them the test, 99th percentile. I took that test in seventh grade, and then those kids that I took that and a lot of the other classes with, I took the same. That was almost like a cohort all the way through graduation. So, I was blessed to have, my mother in particular, to know the system and to not allow, just the system to push you through and just let you take another path. So that was great, and I went from there all the way through to advanced placement, calculus, English, math, etc. So that was a tremendous little pivot point for me very early to be able to go in and be validated and belong at that point. I think that's a big thing with, kids of color going into these type of fields, feeling like they belong. Right. Not only did I want to go, but when I got in there, I belonged.
And so let me ask you, because you made a point, a reference to what your mom did. And I can definitely speak up to my own mother. Right. May the Almighty bless her and my father, as they both died when I was young, much younger than I am now. But I definitely could, feel what you said in terms of how my mother's assertiveness, right, in getting me in the kind of honors programs, right, yes, starting, as you said, in middle school, help to push me ahead, and make me, in that smart cohort where I was kind of not at the top, quite frankly, you know what I mean? But because it was the smartest of the young of the young people, we were at the top. You see what I mean? I wasn't at the top of that cohort, but we were at the top of the entire school. You know what I mean? From middle school on through high school. What would you say to parents? I mean, who feel like maybe they're being too pushy or they don't want to, basically ruffle feathers. I mean, what would you say to them based upon your experience and some of those that I just related to myself?
So I would say for the last 20 plus years, off and on, but very intensely in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been involved with a fraternity has a mentor program out here in Howard County, and we take kids from literally third grade, and we've been involved with this group we have now from third grade all the way through to their, we have kids who we started with them in third grade, and now they're a couple of them have in college, and we have a couple of graduates. And so our program is designed to trying to get that same initiative. All parents don't have that type of background in terms of knowing the system, or they having a parent that's challenged. It's a single parent, etc. So, it's a combination of the kid's inclination as well as, the parent saying, "Hey, I want my kid at the front." There's no such thing as being too pushy when it comes to that early stage. In some ways, you can model. I mean, once 7th, 8th grade hits, you're almost on a track. Not saying that, everything is already written. We can rewrite our ticket at any time we choose. But a lot of times you can be earmarked for a certain track very early. And then, like you said, once you're in that stack, you move in a certain way. I have other friends who, their parents were good, but they didn't necessarily know the system. But most of my friends have been successful, attorneys, technology, pharmaceutical, healthcare, doctors, etc. And the community was part of that as well. You'd look over your shoulder, the kid's a couple years older than you, be like, "Oh, so and so, I want to be like that guy down the street." And so, the whole social atmosphere, the community, that's big. And then having the whole, the cliche, we're well-rounded. So, being involved in different activities like, sports and other things connects you with other kids, other families that are doing different things, not just people that look like us. I had friends, Jewish friends, white, Asian, whatever, and they were doing thousands. I would always be inquisitive. "Oh, so-and-so is going to a band camp. So-and-so, a friend Neil, he's going to a financial, I don't know, accounting class, in the summer. And so always wanting, and there's a little bit of a competitive edge. So I wanted to be competitive, not just once I was in the group, I wanted to be competitive. So my mother got me and my brother, we got a tutor. And so I would say, let me think, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, we had a tutor, Miss Stewart. Never forget Miss Tebby Stewart and Miss Harrison. I'd say every Saturday, we're over there. We're rolling our eyes like, why we got to go to this? But guess what? When I got in the pre-calculus class, when I got into the different class, I had already had one-on-one help with those things. And so that's the thing of a community and participating in the different groups. You would see older kids. Where are they going? Oh, so-and-so is going to Howard University, full scholarship. Oh, your buddy who you were playing ball with who's a little bit older. Oh, well, he's going to Naval Academy or he's going to Harvard. So that's the kind of a thing that community adds to that whole equation. And all the different cliches. Oh, you're as good as the 5 people you hang with, the average. That's where you're going to end up. There's some truth to that. So I would credit, obviously parents wanting to put you in a place where you're going to get maximum, exposure and opportunity. And then, allowing enough room to let the kids inquisitiveness and curiosity. My brother is an artist. So, some of the connections there, he got to connect with some artists out here and he was able to go, to Hampton and then to Philadelphia, Art Institute. And even in high school, he was an award-winning, painter, artist, exhibiting at, Artscape and different places, getting awards. So that's the whole, you got an additional layer of exposure. But everybody couldn't go anywhere, couldn't go in the mall without seeing, somebody you knew, that extended family thing.
And so, I can say for sure, you had a different background than myself. I grew up in the inner city of Detroit, as you may know, and we grew up in the middle of the crack cocaine pandemic,
right?
Which was, it was really kind of fermented, first of all, by the, kind of heroin pandemic, and then it was the marijuana pandemic, and then it was the crack cocaine pandemic. So all three of those, were impacting the people where I grew up in Detroit, and particularly in the community where I was raised in high school, and that was Highland Park. So you seem to have led a little sheltered life, whereas a lot of me and my
You'll put me in that box?
Well, no, I mean, and it was a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I guess the reason I asked that is that despite that, when we met at the United States Air Force Academy, I must say that you didn't necessarily when we met, I didn't get the vibe that you kind of came off as being necessarily better than somebody like myself who had grown up in a much more hostile environment. I mean, what do you attribute that to? I guess is the question.
So the balance, I would say there was some balance. Certainly, even though nobody had a fence out here in Columbia because they have a lot of what do you call it? A lot of rules about how your house is. The quote unquote white picket fence. So this was a community, right? So your yard's supposed to be a certain way. All the houses look the same. But the other piece was, my family was in Baltimore and then also South Jersey. And so we spent a lot of time in Baltimore. My grandmother lives in Calverton Heights, which is Edmondson Village area, which is where my father's from. My cousins, my cousin Judson and a number of my other cousins are they're we visited them. I mean, we would hang out. We'd spend weeks in the summertime with them, walking up and down McCullough Street and Edmondson Avenue, and right on the border of that, it was coming. The crack thing was on its way, and we would walk around. We knew people, and hey, I mean, we had to run home a couple times after playing a game of tackle football or whatever. So there was some exposure to that, but then we got in the car and came back out here to the. We came back out here, so that was the balance. And then, I mean, so on the other half, I have family in South Jersey, and that was a whole mix, working class, as well as I have other cousins who were also in a suburban situation. So I've seen the whole thing. I've seen the rural, inner city, and also I have cousins who lived in North Carolina and Atlanta. And so we were always moving around with some of our experience being plugged in with different things. We were never in a static. It was never static for us, There's always something going on.
So with that in mind, tell me a little bit about how your experience at the academy. First of all, how did you wind up, there in Colorado Springs, and tell me about your initial experience. How did I understand you went to the prep school? What was the
Yep.
prep school? What is the prep school? What was that like? And then What was your transition to the academy itself?
So it was cool that you met with Daryl because he also attended the prep school. How I got to even the idea of going to the academy came. I did this program in high school for 3 summers. Called the NASA Sharp program, and it was an apprentice program. You take a high school kid, stick them in there, you work with an engineer, you do a project, etc. And so it was a summer job. I was making money. Drove to work, had a badge, got a paycheck, rocked the tie to work. But it was STEM, but they didn't have that word STEM. This is 80s. But I could give you a name and you would know. Keith Phillips. Keith Phillips was in that same Sharp program that I was in.
Okay.
And so that program was cool around here because you had kids from, some kids came from Baltimore. I thought that was interesting. Here, where I was, there were a couple kids here from Columbia, but then the rest of the kids from Prince George's County, Montgomery, and DC. And so there was a whole mix of experiences. It was about half and half as far as it wasn't all males. There were certainly women in there who excelled. And then, so I remember Keith Phillips was one, but before Keith Phillips, who's 89, the guy right here from Columbia, Rob Day, 87.
I know Rob.
Rob Day. It sounds like a joke. I was going to go to the Naval Academy, but Rob Day came to the neighborhood basketball court after he had, gone off to college. And he pulled up in a brand new Supra. And Rob always had a pretty lady with him. Rob could also ball out of control. He was a legendary ball player back then. So he got out, took his nice shirt off, got on the court, ran us off the court. So after the car, I go talk to him. I say, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, well, all I heard him say was, I went in the Air Force." I was like, "We went in the Air Force? What? You went in the Air Force? I thought you were deep, this dude was all world. I thought he was going to a D1, ball program." He's like, "No, I went to Air Force Academy." I was like, "Oh, that's like Navy. I think I want to go there." He was like, "Hey, man, go to Air Force." I said, "Okay. How'd you get you already got a car?" He was like, "Yeah." I didn't listen to the details. Rob talked real fast. He said, "Yeah, they give you a car." That's what I heard. "Oh, you get a car in your junior year, you get a car. Like they give you to you." So I was like, "Oh, I heard Navy has something like that." He's like, "No, you get this in the junior year." So another summer passes. He comes back to the court. I'm not make this story too long, but this is how I got influenced. Rob pulls up the same summer, same scenario, different car, white BMW, different young lady of equal caliber. Gets out of the car, same scenario. I talked to him again. Man, wait a minute. What happened to the Supra? He was like, oh, yeah, so-and-so wrecked my car while I was in Hawaii, and I got a new one. I was like, wait a minute. They gave you the first one, and then they gave you the second one. I was like, all right. So that was one major influence, but I still wanted to go to Navy. I'm from Maryland. Navy's down the road, officer and a gentleman, Top Gun, all that. So I was like, I'm going to Navy. See them white uniforms? That's what I'm doing. My uncle, out of all the millions of pictures I sent you, my uncle and my father were non-commissioned officers in the Air Force. My uncle pulled me up. He's more of a keep it real dude. Ironically, he was stationed at Pope Air Force Base for a lot of his career. He pulled me up. He was like, hey, so what, you want to go get on one of them boats for like 9 months every year? I was like, oh, well, I don't know. I'm going to Navy. It's right down the road. He said, that's 4 years. He said, that's college. When college is over, you're going to be on that boat. And he talked my ear off. And he changed my mind right then and there between him and my pops. And that's why I went to Air Force. I had some other opportunities like Virginia, Penn, whatever. Ironically, I got into prep school, but I didn't get the full 4-year ROTC. That's what's funny to me. But anyway, that's sort of, you can point to certain little experiences right there. And those people and those little experiences made me, want to pursue and get up there. And I had no clue on the academy. I'm telling you, I didn't know anything. I thought it was in the devil.
So what is the prep school, Jay? I mean,
So
you mentioned the prep school. A
it.
previous guest, Daryl, mentioned the prep school, but I don't think people who were not at the academy or at the prep school even knows what you're talking about. What is prep school? Some people think prep school, I mean, is a high school. What are you talking about?
So all the service academies, West Point, Naval Academy, and Air Force Academy, have a preparatory school. United States Military Preparatory School, I think, is on their campus in West Point. Navy's is up in Connecticut, I think, or Rhode Island or Connecticut. Air Force Academy is on the campus, it's on the base where the Air Force Academy is. Best decision still remains the best decision I ever made was taking that prep school. I got nominated initially by Barbara Mikulski, and then when it was all said and done, with the appointment, I didn't get a direct appointment, so they was like, hey, you're in the prep school. And I also got a Navy prep school. You basically, they enlist you in the reserves, so you're a active reservist. Your job is to be at the prep school, study, do basic training, do all that. You got paid. Also, going into a new environment, like the academy, as you know, it's very competitive. You're learning, it's like trying to take a sip from fire hydrant. By going to the prep school and meeting a lot of the people I met, a lot of people I'm closest with are people who went to that prep school with me. And you got paid. I mean, we got paid like more than twice what we got paid at the academy. So you get paid. And then even if you don't want to go to the academy, you can bounce. So it was a great opportunity. And it kind of gave prep to different people. Different people had different needs. It is a tool for them to recruit athletes. So we don't pull any punches about that. But also the academy pulls people from all around the country. So everybody doesn't have AP calculus at their school, or everybody doesn't have, physics and all the different college prep, high school track. And it gives you that. It prepped your, if you need, I think I needed 10 or 20 more points on my SAT, whatever. So let me
ask you a question.
I'll shorten it. It was like to take the academy and just kind of shorten it down. Probably similar intensity. You didn't have four like upperclassmen and all that stuff, but man, it was a great experience. You learned all the military stuff, how to wear the uniform, shine the shoes, get used to the altitude, which is a big deal out there, all that. So that's what it was, and you got paid.
So tell me, we got a great question from one of your classmates and my classmates, Todd T Money Stewart on
Yes.
YouTube, and for anybody who's watching YouTube, definitely don't hesitate to smack that like button and also push subscribe so you can get any updates on some of the questions that have been asked and any responses that we provide after the show. And so, T Money wants to know, what advice would you give high school juniors, for example, and other high school students interested in attending a service academy? Are there any lessons that you learned based upon your experience? And I understand that after, the reason why I guess so much about the prep school, not only did you attend the prep school, but weren't you involved in actually recruiting people to come to the academy and the prep school after you graduated?
So you loaded up the question. In fact, Todd and I were, our first duty assignment after graduating was admissions officer and recruiter at the academy. Got to travel around. I can't believe they let me and Todd have that job. But yeah, so talking to juniors, which that's when the application process typically starts. I would say the part of me says, as a junior, the preparation needs to already be there. So, especially in that job, I know Todd followed this same approach. If I were going to a typical territory, I went from everywhere from Birmingham, Alabama, all the way to up here in DMV and all in between in the Southeast. And I would say we tried to go to I tried to get to a middle school and talk to eighth graders. When I went to a high school, I talked to the 11th and 12th graders, but guess what? I said, hey, do you have some top ninth graders that might be interested? And then we try to in advance have some information so they could begin thinking about it. But yeah, the standard answer, I mean, it's like any other, competitive, as far as the academics go, all the things you would prepare for in terms of academics, get your SAT, get some grades, take college prep courses, do those things. On the other hand, you really have to be a complete citizen. And what I'm saying is you need to start showing a leadership track in high school. Are you involved in activities? Are you on sports teams? A big deal. So your physical fitness, but not only the physical fitness of it, but being on the team, the typical profiles, people who have been team captains, things like that, student body president, different things like that. So those are the things I want to tell somebody who's ninth grade, 11th grade. You can be like, oh, I haven't done anything. Okay, run for class president. Okay, I scoffed junior ROTC in high school. I scoffed at it, ironically, but it's an excellent program. So, those are the kinds of things that you want to tell that. I would say if I wish somebody would have told me on the way in would have been, if I thought I was in shape as a little high school athlete, take that and at least double it. So, hey, I was on a track team. I ran the 800 in the mile, blah, blah, blah. I could do my little push-up. I passed the minimum on the little test, the fitness test that they give you. You need to be able to double that. And so that would be something I wish someone had told me back then.
So let me ask you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to ask you, what would you say is important for young people who come to competitive programs, across the country, be they, historically Black colleges like Howard, or be they, United States military academies, like the Air Force Academy. What would you say to the concern that a lot of parents have, that they're, young people go to these competitive programs, and once they get in, they kind of get socialized out of, pursuing the tough majors, be it astronautical engineering or mechanical engineering or aeronautical engineering or biomechanical engineering or pre-med, and then they basically get to the, basically 2.0 and go, and just graduate. What would you say, to both students and parents who find themselves, struggling with those challenges?
What I found is some of the advice I have off the top of my head is dated. And when I say that, I mean, I would tell you, hey, come here, pick the major that's your passion, and then, hunker down and do that. And of course, coming here, being competitive, take as many of the classes that'll get you ready for that type of environment, whether it's MIT or Air Force or Navy, whatever, or Howard University, A&T, I don't care which one. I've heard stories of people at all kinds of different schools getting there and being like, man, I got there and they had a weed out class, for, whatever, engineering or for, high level finance class, whatever. So you have to be ready. You had to get your study skills down. I didn't get my study skills down until junior year. I really didn't learn how to manage your time and how to study. Didn't learn it until I was a junior. Everything else was kind of muddling through. And also, there's another, you have two different, you have the person who, probably barely got in or whatever. And so they've had to work hard. Then you have somebody that in high school, they just kind of naturally did well academically. I probably fell in that. I did very well, pretty well in high school. And then I went to the prep school. And so that was a good thing. And I got to the prep school and I was a little bit arrogant. I was like, oh yeah, well, I already had that. I'm good. So I kind of was still on the high school laurels. As you well know, Talib, when you get to the academy, before you even get to the drama of the social adjustment, statistics doesn't care. Statistics don't care about your feelings. Don't care about the stress you went through.
You mean the actual course statistics, 101.
Yeah, the course.
See, people think you talk about just the generic,
differential equations. Did not care.
You talk about diff EQ.
You had a paper for history.
I think I still have my differential cases book from the academy.
Yeah, I'm saying so that they don't care. The numbers, they say numbers don't lie. Numbers also don't care when you're taking those classes. And so you have to go in, and I do think that in our era, the rhetoric, and I know for me, it kind of did get to me. In other words, when I was in the struggle academically, I actually thought, in the back of my head, even though I could be in a class and I'm helping Chad with his daggone calculus. And then I'm taking 6 other classes at the same time. I'm going, well, maybe I belonged at a different school. Maybe maybe they really only wanted, there's a message that was playing in their head. Today, I do think it's better because I've gone back a number of times. We have our conferences and homecomings and things like that. I've gone back, and these guys are a lot more confident about the academics. But I would say the prep for that is you got to figure out what you want to do and pick the major that makes that happen. I think it's a little different for service academies. I wish I'd have figured it out. I have a bit of a mixed message. I really think in my head, if I really wish I'd have picked interdisciplinary analysis, which was a code word for what we call basic act back in the day. I wish I would have picked something like that early for me. Because what I found in my career, it has not made a difference. Now, had I wanted to go and design airplanes, if I were one who maybe wanted to be an astronaut, obviously, if you want to be a mission specialist astronaut, you need to be on some type of track that's, oh, you're a PhD physicist or something like that. Then you need to, pursue that track. I wanted to be an officer in the United States Air Force. That's what I wanted to do. And so the minute I threw the hat up, I had that. But as far as picking a major, I've found service academy is unique. It never mattered what my major was. Didn't matter. Only on a few occasions did my GPA matter. As far as, once I got out into a career as a performing, professional.
And so, I would agree with you in some sense that majors are not make or break it, right? But one of the things I've found is that at competitive programs, particularly that are non-HBCUs, right, there is that pressure, but on African American students. And I don't know about the Caucasian students, but it doesn't seem like they have that pressure to basically get out of the tough majors, right? And basically just get through college, right? And I do see that having a tougher major does open some doors for you, even after graduation, right? And I'm wondering again for our young people out there who, maybe either struggling, or parents of students who are struggling, to stay in competitive programs, STEM programs in particular. What can you say? While on the one hand you say that, hey, you were successful regardless of the fact that you might not have been in a super competitive program, although every program at the academy, as you know, is competitive. But what would you say in terms of to encourage our young people to stay in these programs? And I mentioned this, that my sister went to Stanford. We couldn't take her or keep her at Howard. So after I left the academy, all my siblings decided to go to Howard. Right. My youngest sister, who came to live with me after my father died. She went to Stanford, and she started off as a biomechanical engineering major, because I was, I had in my mind she's going to become biomechanical engineering and then go to medical school at Stanford. You know what I mean? And Stanford is known for technology or medical schools, or even to some extent law school. You get out of Stanford with those type of majors, you set for life. You know what I mean? But instead, she got pressured while she was in school because of the particularly the cultural community in which she was hanging around, African American students and the like, and they encouraged her to go to African American studies. What I mean? And I'm like, who gets an African American studies degree at Stanford? You know what I mean? But I mean, it was not just, again, it showed me that kind of, as you said, weed out mentality, particularly at our schools that are not as kind of an incubator like, which I find at HBCUs, particularly at Howard, they don't even still today have that encouragement for students of color, African American students in particular, to remain in those tough majors. I mean, how would you speak to that?
So I would say a couple of things. So it's not linear, right? It's not one. It's a multivariate. It's a multivariate equation in terms of a 18, 19, 20-year-old leaving the nest, going to whatever institution there is. A lot of kids I'm seeing around here, friends of mine's kids, even from quote unquote Howard County, where they have they want to leave here and go to HBCUs. So I have a number of friends. They're going to Southern, they're going to Howard, they're going to Morgan. And so they're going to these schools, and you know, they're pursuing whatever the major that they, wanted to pursue. And that's great. And so, and I've seen, in my opinion, and I didn't attend a HBCU, but I've seen an uplift of certain HBCU. So maybe that trend can continue. In other words, hey, MIT, Stanford, et cetera, are just that. But can you go ball out at Howard University in the engineering program and then turn around and go to MIT for your master's or your PhD program? Can you be Ronald McNair, A&T, MIT? That's a track to consider. Another track would be, hey, all right, I'm up at MIT. It's a beast. I'm sticking with double E. You know what? When you come home, instead of chilling, you might want to stay up there and take 1 or 2 classes in the summer, in the summer, where you just take the class in isolation. One of the best classes, ask Anthony M. Perkins, Colonel, United States Air Force, ask him and ask Todd Stewart about our experience taking thermodynamics, we called it summer act. We called it some other things too, but summer act, thermodynamics. I got an A in that sucker.
That's right. That's right. Hey, one of the best hidden secrets at the academy.
Summer act. Now, if I took thermo with 6 other classes, which would be the typical, schedule, 6 other classes, military, all this, jumping through the hoops, I don't know that I get that same A that I got in that class. I only got a couple A's at the academy period. So all of a sudden I go in there and I get an A. I was like, dang, I wish I had took some more summer academics. So I think at any competitive institution, you do what you have to do. So, I mean, that might mean staying and taking a class, or when you come home, why don't you grab the community college and take, something, take a class over the summer. And with online, we didn't have online. Well, we did. There's a story that could go with that. We didn't necessarily have the internet of what it is today. I'll say it that way. So, I mean, those are things that I have told parents and that I would give as normal advice to. In fact, I spent about 6 years on Senator Barbara Mikulski's selection board for service academies. And so her philosophy was every applicant gets an interview. It's not like they went through, vetted, and then decided who got the interview. Everybody got the interview. So we would go in there. They had 10 interview teams. We would all interview like 12 kids from around this. Because it was the senator, it was the entire state. Some of those kids came in, and a couple of them I told, hey, look, there were some of them who was blunt honest. I said, you're not going to, politely, you're not getting in the Naval Academy living in Maryland with a 2.6 and a not 1,000 SAT, and you are not a quarterback. You're not a 4.3 quarterback prospect.
So let me ask you on that note.
So that's all I'm saying is that dynamic right there. It's like, why don't you go to Frostburg State? Why don't you go to UMBC? Why don't you go to even your community college, ball out, get 4.0,
right,
and take all the science and all the math or whatever, and then reapply.
And that's something a lot of people don't understand. And I really wish I had known that myself. And that's the idea of, they say that a setback is only a setup for a comeback, right?
Yep. Yep.
I think Willie Jolly used to speak about that. And as a student, maybe it was an issue of pride, but I didn't understand that, it's okay. you know what I mean, to do something, that might not seem like it's in line with your goal. It's really kind of a lateral. It's a pivot, you know what I mean, in order to be able to go up and make that 3-pointer. And a lot of students, either be it pride or other things, don't think about that. But a question again that comes to this as well, especially in the era of online education, is now, you've been a college recruiter, right?
Yeah.
And you also, I understand, that you recruited people out of college in order to come work for the companies that you worked with, right? If I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
A lot of my recruiting career was a focus on recruiting people transitioning from active duty to
the military. Okay. Yeah. So you've been involved in recruiting. So I
have done a significant amount of college recruiting. Yes.
Okay. So my question then to you, as a former college recruiter and a former headhunter, is what, and this comes from our, Colonel Tony Perkins, who you just mentioned, is in this era of online learning, does the logo that you sport on your, apparel or is stamped on your diploma really make a difference? What would you say to that?
Okay, now I'm a fossil from the 20th century. And so I would say, does it matter? Yes. I would also say for some people, it doesn't matter. So in other words, let's say there's a lot of people who get into a technology career, right? At the hands-on level, help desk. You can get a lot of these careers started without a degree. And so there's a number of people that I've worked with that started, got a good number of years, and then sort of maybe reached maybe a ceiling. And I've got a lot of friends, and they went and they got that degree, and then they got the second degree. And they, these schools are pretty good about giving you credit for your experience and doing those kinds of things. So for those people who already have work experience, it's perfect. It's perfect. So a fossil like me looking at a degree, we went to Phoenix. If you're 21 and you went to Phoenix, I'm going, okay, I don't know. That's me talking. But if you're 25 and your degree is Phoenix, but you've done help desk, cyber, you're familiar with all these different platforms and that kind of thing, I don't care. I don't care. You got your PMP or you got your cyber certification, CISSP, you got a clearance, you're off to the races just as fast as anybody who may have a degree. However, there's a certain track. I worked at a company, Deloitte, and there's certain companies that they try to build a group of talent, and they believe in a certain pedigree. And it's not just Deloitte, it's a number of companies, and they believe in a certain pedigree of professionals. So they want somebody that comes from a school that they've heard of. They probably aren't directly recruiting from the online schools. They're doing their college tours around they do go to HBCUs. They go to your big schools like Maryland, UVA, your Ivy Leagues, etc. They're going to pull those people in with no experience. They'll put them in. Online is somebody who already has, generally speaking, for the companies I've worked at, that's somebody who already has some experience. Then they tack that degree on. I could be wrong, but it's a 20th century, paradigm.
So then let me ask you this, and we really, had some amazing conversation this evening. I'm going to kind of give you a lightning round of questions that I want you to, kind of end off with, that kind of capsulize your career and what you're doing and your commitment to the values that your parents taught you to uphold. First of all, in terms of legacy, what would you say in terms of the lessons that you learned from your parents and the work that you've done in corporate America? Like, what would you convey to your nephews and nieces and the young people that you mentor with Omega Psi Phi, not as a Kappa man and the Guide Right program that we hold near dear to ourselves. I'll say that we definitely salute what you're doing over there, quite frankly. And it's great to see Black men who are making a commitment of their time to their community. But what would you convey to the young people in terms of the most important thing for them to do, especially now in this COVID environment where it's so difficult for young people to kind of stay focused on their computer screens? What would you advise if it was you were speaking to Jay Kerr, who is from '87, was now a high school senior in 2021? What would you advise that Jay Kerr right now?
So a lot of the things are just the same fundamentals. It's the same blocking and tackling that you would do. Work hard. We've all heard the speech, from you got to be 10% better than you got to work double as hard as the folks next to you. All those things, they haven't gone away. But I think right now, and I'm focusing maybe I am focusing on the technology and some of those fields. The certification flow is killing the game right now, more so than when we came through. We came through, you go get your degree, and then get some experience, and then get a master's degree, and et cetera. I think that is kind of dead. Like, to have the expectation that is going to automatically propel you is dead. The certifications, he is just talking cyber. This person has a CISSP. So look that up if you don't know. Or this person has a project management professional certification. This person has some other thing. CPA, certified financial planning. So those things now matters. So it's assumed. It's like if you rewind back to our parents' era, you got a high school degree, you went to a good high school, good, you can get a good job and then move up. Well, that changed. Everybody's expected in a certain professional way. Yeah, college is expected. So now it's already baked in. You went to college. Okay, good. Now it's, are you certified? You read the job descriptions, and you see it. Expect certain certifications based on the industry or based on the field that you're going into. In particular, in the technology realm, it's very, you get a stack of resumes, or you're reading a stack online here. See, you'll do a search. You do a search string as a recruiter. If they don't have the PIP and the clearance, PMP and the clearance, I don't want to see it, because I'm recruiting to fill this job, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one. The other one is, I think I said this before when we had a little group. We had a little group call recently. I said, there's nothing wrong with taking a pivot. In other words, hey, I tell you what, all the stuff I did in the Air Force, I pivoted away from a lot of it. I still use a lot of it, but a lot of it pivoted. I was a contract, when it was all said and done, I left the Air Force as a acquisition contracts officer. And my first job after the Air Force was as a contracts officer, contracts manager at Northrop Grumman. And I hated that job. I stayed in that job for about, I don't know, 6 months. And then I started interviewing again, and I took a pivot. And eventually, what I would say is, depending on your how your DNA is, or how you're aligned with your risk tolerance is, entrepreneurship trumps a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now you started tech. You look at the resumes of some of these folks started tech companies, and all of that old paradigm is gone.
Right.
If you can get out there and do it, prove the early concept, get it going, or start a services company and perform and get a track record, it'll mean more than a lot of the things that we may have grown up listening to.
Including like either multiple degrees or multiple certifications, right? If you're out here with $1 billion company or even a $1 million company, will it even make a difference how many, certifications or even degrees that you have, right?
Right. So there's another track out here. You have whatever your profession is, whether it's engineering, mechanical, electrical, interdisciplinary. Now, whatever your academic background is one thing. You go to start a company, you somehow, before you go into that, we could do a whole separate podcast. There's a pivot into entrepreneurship, which is different than going into a job, or even going into a career track. Okay, it's totally different. Oh, when you're at work, you did your thing, you submitted your email, you gave your briefing, and then you were like, I sent it to them. They're going to take it. When you have a company, there's no they. When you have clients and customers, there's no they. When you have employees and, the invoices aren't paid yet, there's no they. Oh, they haven't, finance hasn't. You don't have that. And there's no degree that's going to put the payroll cash flow into the bank so you can pay these people that you have working for you.
That's right.
Etc. So there's just delivery. Matter of fact, I have the first, the first and the second startup I had was with a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who's he's also an Air Force NCO. We used to kick a lot of ideas, and then I was working a regular job. He said, man, he pitched the idea to me about 7 times. He said, you want to get in? I said, nah, not yet. I got to finish my master's. I got to do this. He was like, man, you just got to get in. No degree, but one of the sharpest people. That's the guy that I credit getting me into entrepreneur. He's like, we're going to start our own company. Already got it set up. I need you to come in and help me with that. Man, we did 2 startups together. V-Hibit Software, and then Prep Champs. We raised $4 million in Prep Champs.
Wow. That's serious cash.
Different skill set.
Right.
Different skill set. And also different risk tolerance.
Right.
You got to really be willing to skinny dip.
And so on that note, in terms of being risk prone, right, versus risk adverse, what would you like to, kind of leave as your legacy? One, where would you like to be at the end of your career? And B, or 2, what would you like to have, said about you? So if I'm, your, great grand niece or nephew, and I'm checking out this video, some years after both of us are gone, what would you like to have them like hear this video and say, man, my uncle, great grand, uncle did this. I mean, and what would you like that to be?
So I think your first question is career-wise, where do I want it to? I mean, I don't see an end. I mean, I'm serial. I think in serial. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this now. I would like, so from a career standpoint, I'd like to advance. You can be an employee, you can be self-employed, You can be a business owner, and you can be an investor. So when I leave the sort of the track, I want to be an investor. Okay, so I want to be somebody that, you know, goes out and sees talent out on the street and is constantly looking for where, not just the opportunity to make money, but I want to plug in with, oh, here's some brothers, 3 guys, ex-military, ex-Air Force, or HBCU grads, and I'd like to be able to be in a position where I can, you know, help them get to the next level they're trying to go to. And
as an angel or VC investor.
Short VC, angel, etc. So that's probably where I would want to be. Your other what was your second question?
And what would you like to, you know, kind of your legacy? You know,
Right.
It's like, you know, here lies Jay Kerr. He did X.
Yeah. So I haven't had the opportunity. I mentioned my nephew, who's 27 now. It's amazing. A lot of the things and the success he had, he tells me, oh, yeah, you told me to blah, blah, blah. You told me to get this certification. You told me to set up an LLC. I love when he just says, oh, he comes up to me and goes, I set the LLC up. I love when he comes up to me and tells me that he executed on something I told him 4 years ago, when he was in 10th grade. So those are the kinds of things. And then I think on a higher level, you know, I grew up in an AME church. My mother walks around the house and she sings, randomly sings, you know, traditional African-American hymns. And anything that comes up, I can match a regular secular song or probably some type of religious or song. And so there's a song that stuck in my head since 1976. May the service I've done speak for me.
You know, that's a powerful statement. You know, your good works, right? And
yeah, it's you know, it's in a song. It's, you know, popular traditional, you know, gospel song, whatever. But that would be where I would want to stick the landing right there. And so whether it's through things that I do through my fraternity or through what we do with our group, etc. So that's why I love the only thing I've had in my life that has stuck for this many years. You know exactly what it is. It's the group that we started back in 88.
Well, you know, really, man, I really want to say, Jay, and you know, really, we need to have a part 2 because, you know, the you know, deep dive into your startup career and, you know, your Air Force career. Really, we didn't give a chance to, you know, even go nearly through all of the bases that, on which you served, or all the companies in which you worked. Man,
you can talk about all the Air Force stuff, man.
You're a fascinating brother, man. I can just tell you, you're a fascinating brother. You always struck me as a cool, balanced cat, man, who I could, you know, look to. And I just want you to know, man, how grateful I am for having the opportunity that we had to, you know, spend some time together at the Air Force Academy, you know, and know each other, man, and remain close to this very day. You know, not a lot of folks, you know, get that opportunity to have that type of, you know, relationship. And I would say to you, brother, that you know, I'm just grateful. You know, I'm very grateful and humbled, man, that we had that bond, and that again, that bond remains today, man. And you know, again, whatever you're doing, brother, you know, I just want you to know that I'm here, and we at STEM4US. And if anybody's interested in basically again doing or learning more information about what you're doing, how can they, you know, find out more about you, Jay Kerr?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can go on there, and that's got a bunch of, that's resume-ish. I got a website for the company. It's very basic, hightorgroup.com. That's on there. That's an exciting company for me, partnered with my father and another frat brother of mine, close. So hightorgroup.com, you'll be hearing about us real soon.
Well, brother, again, as I said, it's definitely been a pleasure. You know, again, we have.
I want this picture right here. This one right here.
we have been through a whole lot, brother. You know what I mean? But I can say for sure that again, the bonds of fellowship, man, are are eternal, right? And we
Right.
appreciate those bonds, and we appreciate you, brother. We appreciate you making a commitment of your time to give our young people tonight, and to share a bit of yourself. And without any further ado, we want to wish you and your family, the peace and blessings of the Almighty. We want to hope that you and your family receives increased guidance and safety and health, especially during this time, and prosperity. I see. I see you. Well, brother, again, it's been a great night. If you liked what you heard, if you appreciate the content, then definitely like this program. Definitely subscribe to STEM4US on YouTube, and check us out. Make a commitment of your time and some of your money. We can get you, in fact, on this platform as well. And we want to hear your stories. So many of you, Tony Perkins, Todd Stewart, Hassan Karim, all you guys, man, have wonderful stories. We want to definitely hear it. So check us out and let us continue this great conversation, as we begin to look at our young people who are really in need of some of these things that we have talked about today. So without any further ado, I want to wish you guys well, and let us definitely always know that sometimes you got young people who again come from boyhood to manhood, and they can make a great difference in the lives of people. And again, Jay Kerr, you are one who made a great difference. Thank you, dear brother, and I wish you well.
Talib, 1911, all good.
It's true and true, right? Peace and blessings all.
All right, man. One love.